roll call, please.
All right. Steve Rigger.
Here.
Kimberly Hayes.
Here.
Patricia Redmond.
Here.
Mary Ann Burke.
Here.
You have a quorum. Also in attendance,
Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk.
Amy Solberg, Elections Coordinator.
Okay, so you have a draft agenda in your packet. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any objections? Okay, the agenda is approved. The next item, now that we are on an official agenda, is the review of the minutes from the last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented for the May 24th, 2018 meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the draft minutes? Hearing no discussion, is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Okay, the minutes are approved. Is there any old business? Yeah?
Unless, I think this is new business.
I think so. Yeah.
So no old business.
Okay, let's move to new business then. Is there any, I'll ask staff, is there any reason to take up one draft before the other?
The assembly draft you might want to take up the assembly draft first. It has more information in it because I have access to the assembly information. And then if you want to review that one and make any edits to it, then we can do the school board one separately. And then I can make the same changes to that. And I started with a slightly different tack, and then I went back to this. What I had initially started to do was to update the language, and as there are some parts of the resolution that I know were confusing to like employee relations, and the one thing I didn't understand was why the salary changes starts on July 1st, and I thought, well, maybe, but I have no idea why those things were set up that way, and so I went back to the beginning, and all I did was make them blanks, and I think that, because I think that Steve and Pat can explain those things better, why you did it this way, rather than me making any changes now, and then I think you can make those changes to update the language where it needs to be updated.
Okay, well, I do remember some discussion about recently in one of these meetings about needing budget time, and maybe
I thought the budget time was when we wanted to introduce it, but the July date, is that when the fiscal year starts?
No?
No. Huh.
well, I can't recall.
What is the
I've
fiscal
got a
year?
packet here, but
Calendar.
We're on a calendar year.
And the budget is turned over to the assembly in October. I guess I don't know the.
Maybe
yeah.
it had to do with, when do we swear in a mayor? That's always,
The mayor does start on July 1st, but the assembly
Assembly
members
doesn't.
don't.
yeah, I think that's what,
Probably
I think that's
standardized.
when thinking back, I think that might have been something that was, at the time, part of the discussion. Because if the mayor, when we instituted a new mayor, it would be effective with that.
Okay.
Now, whether or not we need to keep it that way is something else.
So I would just suggest from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't make any sense because the mayor's term is July 1st.
Right.
So the mayor's pay would start July 1st. Why the assembly would trail on that doesn't make any sense to me as an outsider. Now, do you want to have time for people to prepare for that? And I think you both asked that budget question. So the answer to that is that if you wanted to make a salary change, it would be effective the first pay period after X date. So for example, if it was the certification of the election, it would be the first pay period after, the beginning of the first pay period after certification. So, and this is something that obviously just drove employee relations crazy today. Our new assembly member started today.
Right.
Today is her first day of work, and that's not the way employee relations does things.
Yeah.
People are supposed to start on the first Monday of the first pay period of the period. So, I'm just telling you that's one of the ways that you could do that instead of on certification of the election, which would be on off cycle. You could just change it, or you could make it July 1st. You could make it whatever you wanted, except that
Right.
July 1st sometimes is not the first
Right.
day of a pay period. It should be the first day of a pay period after, on or after July 1st.
Right. Okay, so if I'm hearing all of what you're saying correctly, the most important thing as far as administrative convenience or inconvenience is concerned is whether we break a pay period. Beyond that, we could probably do anything we wanted. If we use language that said upon the first pay period after whatever date we choose, is that?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm paraphrasing. To say.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
In, I'm looking back, I'm trying to go back through here, and in 2015, we had one of the resolutions we had in it, unless otherwise specified in a motion, the starting date for recommended changes commencing in any year or month shall be deemed to be effective at the start of the first full pay period in that year or month. And the provisions of this will be effective July 21, 2015. So I'm not sure, what was this one for?
That was for our penny.
Yes.
That was
Oh,
our
that's
round,
right.
that was the rounding.
Rounding up.
Yep.
Or down, okay,
Yeah.
so let's see what else we did.
Actually, that one would work, right? If we
Right.
yeah.
Because it has that language about pay periods, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you wanted to start with the one for the assembly, that is Y. And so they're basically identical. The assembly, again, has a little bit more information. I will tell you that the other thing that I didn't understand, and so you can help me with this, if you go to section 1, that the chair of the assembly, if a newly elected official or an official newly re-elected, shall receive compensation in the amount of X per year. And I don't think you need to say as set by the commission because you're
Right.
setting it.
Right. It's inferred.
And then upon certification, and this was interesting to me because but it was on certification of the April 20th, 2020 election and effective. So I have to tell you that, so that's not next year, that's a whole
Yeah.
year away for the chair.
Right.
Okay? So then, the next one for the chair is, if the chair is not newly elected or not an official newly elected, the salary shall remain as currently set. So what I'm thinking you need to do is you need to set each of these off a little bit more clearly. And maybe that one comes first, if the chair isn't newly elected or an official, the salary is the same. But then it goes on to the salary then increases, and it was 4% on July 1 of 2021, and then it probably should say, and July 1, or whatever the date is, of 2022. And I think that sentence is clear, but again, the last sentence to me is not clear. At the point the chair becomes a newly elected official, or a newly reelected, it says salary will reflect the new scale. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, where did this resolution?
This is the existing resolution. It's
Okay,
2008-2 as amended.
okay, well.
And I think it's
agree
just
with you.
old. It's
Well, I
just,
think, and looking back, you know, when you look back through previous ones, going back to, this goes long, this is 75. That's kind of the wording that's in there. But these are all relating to the mayor. These are all relating to the mayor. But the wording is such, is that way though.
and so we've just been copying some
Right.
old language.
Without knowing why.
And things have changed so much.
As it's written right now,
Yeah.
when does this happen?
Well, fortunately, everybody has struggled with this but it's done. The last raise was 2012, and they haven't gotten a raise since then, so it doesn't matter.
But they,
But it's so frustrating to have something in a resolution you don't understand.
but is it, we say that the last raise was 2012, but is it 4% per year?
It was.
It was until 2012.
There was a
So we
catch-up.
haven't had a raise since, so it's pegged at 2012 and it hasn't gone above that.
That is correct. I put that in the whereas on the front
Okay,
page.
yeah, I did see that.
It would be in the fourth whereas.
'Cause I think it
It's
came up.
28,121 annually plus 200, and you know, this 250 paid bi-monthly, I need to double check on that, because if you look at paragraph 5, that's on page 2 of this, it says
Yeah.
250 bi-weekly, and it can't be bi-weekly.
It can't be bi-weekly.
Right,
It was not supposed to be
But-
bi-weekly.
but this is in italics because I didn't change it.
Right.
So, and the reason, and see, that equals, comes to $500 a month, right, based on.
Oh, bi-monthly.
Yeah, if
Right.
we do it. Oh, it's bi-monthly.
Well, you
That's right, bi-monthly is
Depends on-
250.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it is.
meant bi-monthly.
Right,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
okay. And that's the way I
Right.
interpreted it.
Right, I was gonna say, I know we didn't have, it was just so that they could have something to. All right, now, let's see.
Okay, question for you. Let's go, if you go back to section 1, I'm looking at it now. And you've said that the last sentence doesn't make much sense, and I can follow that. I'm wondering if also the first sentence isn't necessary.
I agree with you.
Okay.
As
so
in,
all
you
we
haven't
need
been newly elected, so your salary
Right.
remains the same. It seems to be pretty obvious.
Yeah, so all we need is,
Yeah, probably.
if we want to have a provision about increases in subsequent years, all we need is the middle sentence of that second paragraph.
Okay.
Okay.
On the 1, 2, 3,
Kim, go ahead.
5th, whereas, do we need that? It's about school board members.
No, we
Okay.
don't, because you
Okay.
have a
Separate
separate
one?
one
Okay.
for the school board.
And the whereas right after that about how many meetings. So that's cumulative. So that would be 196 meetings in a year. If you add 9 plus 68 is 42 plus 77. Is that what that means? Okay.
It
Just
does.
trying to.
Yep.
And they
Yeah,
could have more than that.
Well,
But
that
those are
doesn't,
official-
those are official publicly
Oh, these
noticed
are the-
meetings.
Okay.
Not town halls and all that kind of stuff.
Community, it doesn't include community council meetings.
So Barb, did you do the homework and that refers to 2017?
17.
Okay.
That is correct. We could make that in the 2017 calendar year. I actually asked my staff about the committee meetings of the whole, and I said, should we break that out between committee meetings of the whole and just committee meetings, or should we put it all together? And someone said, no, you should separate it, because the committee meetings of the whole, they're required to attend those meetings.
Right.
So that's why we separated it. There are a couple of committees. The Public Safety Committee is one. That's a committee of the whole. They just think that that's sufficiently important that all of the members are on that. They've had a couple of others.
Homelessness was a committee of the whole at one
Yeah.
time.
So,
I can't imagine someone missing a committee unless it's really a committee meeting, unless it's a major crisis.
I don't know, if there's 196 in a calendar year, I could see that being really hard to make.
Yes,
That
but
many
that's
meetings.
what they're elected to do.
But
I think the hard part is, you know, it's the dichotomy between, are they elected to represent their constituent or attend these committee meetings? And I think that that's a real pull on them, that the committee meetings are, I mean there's just a lot of information at the committee meetings, and you know, you can manage that by declining to serve on some of those committees. But
Excuse me.
it's still just a lot of time.
Must they be excused if they're absent from a committee meeting?
You know, I don't know that there's a requirement. There is a requirement in code that they have to be excused by the chair if they're absent from a regular meeting or a special meeting.
There's a limit to how many they can miss.
There is not for the assembly. There is for board and commission members, but not for the assembly. And the assembly can also participate telephonically. The rules are a little bit different, so that counts as attendance. So the other half of your question was, or a comment is, almost all of them always tell the chair of the committee that they're going to be absent for whatever reason.
Well, as a member of the public, I want to know if they're going to be there.
Mhm.
Okay, I think, you know, there's a lot of cleanup of the wording, but it seems like we picked it apart to a point where the cleanup is evident now. So what we would, and let me just summarize what I think is the correct case, so people can correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to do, this is not having to do with the money yet, but do away with the fifth whereas. The next whereas, we're going to change the reference to last calendar year to 2017. We're going to, go on section 1, delete the reference as set by the commission, because it's superfluous language. And we're going to alter the reference to July 1st to say the start of the first pay period of July.
Would it be the first pay period of July, or the first?
The start of the first pay period that commences in July, maybe. Well, we didn't get. That's true. We didn't get that far.
Or do we want to do it the first pay period after they've been sworn in? I mean, I don't know. Do we want to keep it?
Well, you know, swearing in and certification are really a good idea, because The election is in, April, and the certification is always going to be at the end of April. So that could make it
So their
the
first
first pay
meeting,
period.
and their first meeting would be shortly right after that.
Their first meeting is the meeting in April, the
Yeah.
last meeting in April. So then the pay increase could be the first pay period after
After.
certification, which would essentially be May. Most likely would be May.
So instead of the month of July, we would say commencing upon the certification, the first certification of election or re-election after July 1st.
I think you were on the right track if you'd say per year upon, I see what you mean.
Oh, we got that.
I think you would have to say per year commencing on the first pay period after certification of the April 2020 regular municipal election. Would that work?
That would, there.
Okay.
That would work for me. That's okay. Okay, so wait till Barb's got that down. Keep going.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so and people jump in if you see something I'm missing. But then on the next paragraph, still on section 1, we're only going to keep the middle sentence for now.
Right, the salary shall increase.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
we'll talk about the money later,
Right,
but that's all we need of that.
Okay, I missed the first part. What did you say?
Okay, what I said is that on the second paragraph of section 1, the first and last sentences are unnecessary, so we're only going to keep the middle sentence. And then, rather than thinking through section 2, why don't we just say that the changes that we did, instructions to staff, changes that we did in section 1 will be mirrored in section 2. And then the only other note I have on what we've chewed up on this old resolution is that on section 5, we'll correct the error where we said bi-weekly and to say bi-monthly. Did anyone else catch anything else that we...
This is not something to catch, but are there haven't, since this was language from 2008, have there been any tax provisions that have changed about any of this medical allowance, all that language about pre-tax and taxable salary, just all that legal?
I think those are great questions. I don't know
Right.
the answer to those, but I would suggest that when you're ready for a more final draft, that we run it by employee relations and ask them that question and just have them look at the other information to make sure that it makes sense to them.
This does sound awfully generous by today's rules, so there's a good chance that something has been changed in the law.
Yeah, potentially.
Fortunately, I don't remember it word for word.
So rather than getting into the money, I wonder if we should just address the second draft resolution on the language first and then go into maybe our staff, or, Barb, you can present this, but is there any reason to not kind of make this one mirror the first?
It's identical.
Okay.
So you can make it mirror the first. My understanding was you wanted a separate resolution for the school board, and it's identical. It just is missing some information I don't have from the school board.
Got it. Okay. So what, but, just as long as I'm looking at that, you know, back in the, oh, you have the money, you have the salaries.
The
So-
the
Old
old
salaries.
salaries.
Okay.
Right. I
Yeah.
didn't take those out. I think they're helpful by context for you. I didn't take those out.
Right, so the president, like the president where it's, let's see, well, let's go to the other one. The members of the school board on section 2 where it says 25,910. Yeah, that's the accurate number for us to be working off of if we're considering money. That's still in effect. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I got a little tripped up because of the XXXXX
Okay,
on
got
this
it.
one compared to the other
Yeah.
one. So, are we ready to go into the discussion of pay then?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go back to the assembly. So if I'm reading this resolution right, the last salary increase was in 2012, and so we have gone 6 years without a salary increase, and 2019 would be 7 years, and 2020 would be 8 years. Is that accurate? Is there any reason not to set the salary for 2019?
Did you know, I didn't understand this, and I think the one issue is that, and Pat was right about this, that we're trying to get this into the budget this year before, and it says before the end of the fiscal year. So as long as you pass this in 2018, it
It
seems.
could be effective in 2019
2019, that is correct.
if we can get it through into the budget. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming we can, but
Yes,
that's why we kind of tried to get it earlier.
Right.
Okay.
And so, Steve, I think I would like to point out that in the resolution, and this may have been my misunderstanding, because the resolution was 2008-2 as amended, I made an assumption in that second bullet that they received a pay increase in 2009, 10, 11, and 12. But I think in reading this, the 2008 resolution gave them raises in 10, 11, and 12, not 9.
What's in here?
So if that turns out to be the case,
Yeah,
we just clean that up?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
No, 2009.
they got a raise, it was a different resolution.
There's
She's looking
2008-2 amended. Be it resolved that the salary commission compensation for the assembly and school board commencing on July 1st, 2009 for those members elected in the April 2009 election.
so not everyone got it.
And then the chair of the assembly, for some reason, that one
2010.
was 2010.
And Section 2 also says 2010, and that is for 2000, that's for the other members, but the school board is 09. So school board was 09 and assembly was 10.
Yeah. Maybe,
That's why it's good to have them separate.
Thank
So
you.
can- That,
I wonder why. I can't remember, that was, you know, you guys are asking me to think back a decade. Well, it's only a decade, I probably have some more notes at home if I dug through my junk. It was a decade, wasn't it? Just about.
Well, you know, I would really like to see these salaries adjusted at least to kind of keep up with, you know, how salaries have gone. I mean, I just did some math of a 2% per year, but maybe you know what the negotiated pay have been. I mean, has it been in that neighborhood? Has it been 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, Kim might know better than me
Yeah.
because she
It
works
depends.
for, yes.
Okay.
They're lucky to get 1.5%, depending on the trade.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That doesn't mean they're caught up. I mean, some of them are way
Right.
behind. The last contract that didn't pass the assembly was the plumbers, and they were asking for 5% off the bat and then 0-0. So 5% catch up and then 0-0, and that didn't pass. So that's I think the upper limit.
Yeah.
But 1.5 is kind of
Because
all
it
you
seemed
get
like
in this
4%
budget.
seems, I mean, I know
Yeah, that
it's-
can't. I don't
no.
think that'll
Well,
happen.
that was
No.
a catch-up.
Well, it
Right,
was.
the
it was
original
catch-up.
four
it
was
was.
a catch-up.
Yeah, I remember
And it
that.
was a big catch-up, so it's not that far.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I would be comfortable with 1.5 or 2.
Yeah, I can't go with, definitely can't go with 4, so.
No.
Because I'm thinking what the public would say. I mean, even though it's not like tomorrow they're not getting this raise,
Right.
but they're still going to say, well, they got a raise and I'm paying more taxes and and what happened there?
So Steve, if you did a calculation, what would, that percentage be times 11? I'm just curious.
Someone can check my math here.
Okay.
Well, I didn't go by times 11. I went from 2012 was 28,121. I'm just reading.
Mhm.
That's their current.
Right?
So then the next year's 28,603, 29,257, 29,842, 30,439, 31,048, and 31,669. So in 2019, a 2% compound increase would take the 28,121 to 31,669. If my math is right, but I wrote it down here so people can check it.
Mhm.
I could do the same thing for 1.5.
For someone who's not a mathematician, that sounds like a lot.
Well, it's 12.5%. That's
I
what
know.
happens in 10.5. That's what
I
happens
am a
in
mathematician.
nearly a decade. So, but it does, yeah. I mean, it's going to be if we really would do it fairly. I mean, it's going to be another catch-up.
Oh, I know.
I could actually, if you want, I could just do it again at 1.5. 28, 21.
Oh, and times 11 because that's the number of members on the
Mhm.
assembly.
Right.
Times 1.5. I'm getting there.
No, you're fine.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more.
We're still not even hitting 30. Okay.
Yeah,
What's
that. Well, the math is wrong on one of these.
Shoot, that's more than I made when I worked for the church.
Yeah, because one came to 29,717, the other came 31,669 for just a 0.5% compounded difference. I'll have to redo these. Well, maybe while I'm doing this,
What is the
entertain the discussion.
difference between?
Well, I think one of these is an
current
error. Just a second. Right?
And the new.
He's got to figure it out because there might be a math error. There you go. 30.
30. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but something got misentered. Times 1.015. Okay, so this one at 1.5% would be $30,748. A 2% would be $31,669.
What's the difference between what it is now?
How much?
Yes.
So
Divided
20
by,
Because
oh,
I
it's
can-
just in dollars or in percent?
No, just dollars, because I'm trying to
Couple
think of
thousand?
what the public
Mhm.
will look at, not a percent, but
Right.
bucks.
20,
What do we say the current was?
$2,627.
Per member.
That's at 1.5. The other one. $3,548.
Which is well over 10%.
I can just tell you what it
devil's
is.
advocate.
It's,
Right, no,
you
that's exactly what we're supposed to do, just think about it, what the,
yeah, it's a little less than 10% at 1.5%. It's like 9.3%. And the other one, I think it was like 12.5. thereabouts.
I feel like 1.5 might be the only sweet spot, because I mean, I'm coming from they deserve this huge catch-up. Also
Right.
understanding, I've heard, the budgets aren't going to be so great, everybody's going to be facing some cuts, so
Mhm.
1.5 is, it's small, but it gets us closer. In future years, we maybe won't have to do such a huge catch-up. Like
but the other question is, do they really even need an increase every year or every other year? I mean, they are, we've gone through this before, they're public servants and
Well,
and
my
elected officials, and they don't do it. But yet, you can't afford to do this
Right.
if you don't have some compensation. And if you want good people, they've got to have some kind of compensation if they're taking
Yeah,
time
you
from
wanna-
their businesses and their own other work, so.
That's the balance.
my view is if we don't keep on it, then we get into boxes like this where suddenly you have a
Yeah.
huge catch-up. I mean,
And it looks bad, no matter whether it's
When you
good.
do it, yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
People
We
look at the
wanna-
number that will satisfy their argument.
And do you say,
And they're not one single one of them has asked for a raise.
Oh, I'm not talking about that.
Oh, you're talking about the public.
I'm
Okay,
talking about
got it.
yeah, no, I think it's in the, I think it's in the municipality's interest to pay well. You get a better applicant pool, if you pay, and so I'm completely comfortable with giving an increase and comfortable with, a good compensation.
And I think in talking with if someone thinks that this is too little, we do have an extra $6,000 a year that goes toward medical.
Right, then that's not included.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying
Mm-hmm.
to look from a person who knows nothing about the background, but just dollars or percents that come into the newspaper.
Mhm.
Right. No, that's very true.
Just has to be explained. 1.5%. It's just that
It's a small number. Yeah.
and actually, I've got Kim's view. Marianne, what's your view on the 1%, 1.5, or 2?
I'm comfortable with the 1.5.
It's around the corner. You kind of go that way and that way. She's looking for a back.
yeah.
It's kind of like it's like a big box. You
Go
go that
left
way
out
and
the
then
door.
that way. It'll be
Where
right
do
along the
you know
hallway.
where the elevators
Yeah.
go down?
Do you want me to
No,
show
here.
her? Here, I
Go to
can
this-
show her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, go to that corner right there and turn right, and it won't be very
Oh,
far.
okay. Just all that soda pop.
I am comfortable with it. I would hope that we could in the future look at it more currently so we're not in a big catch-up situation.
That'd be
You
great.
just can't ever describe or explain a catch-up to everybody's satisfaction.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
And this, I don't know what inflation is right now, but this is, it's not like we're going way above.
No, I think
Probably
it's
below.
averaged just under 2% nationally. I don't know what the ANCA statistics are.
Right.
But
Well,
I haven't gotten your opinion.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. Shoot, that if we did 1% per year, I know that doesn't sound like much, but if you did it 1% per year and just continued that with that, you know what I'm saying?
In perpetuity, or
Well,
I mean, not
yeah,
not
but
eternity, but
for rather than having to do catch up every so often.
Well, I think that I think when I started, you guys hadn't met for a while, have
Right,
you?
right. That happens every so often, and then
Right.
they get behind. People forget about us.
Right.
We're not. We have to make noise to say, hey, this group needs to meet more often so that we're not doing this.
And so I think that you've gotten back on track, and I think that makes a big difference. But I think that if you did say a 1% per year, when there are many years where executives, my husband keeps asking me about my raises,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
did not get a raise this year as an executive, and it's not the first year that I have not gotten a raise. And so I think you want to have the flexibility to be able to say, nope, we're not giving them a raise either this year.
And then the other would be then maybe we probably can't say that, but it's something like they get a raise if everybody else, if the other executive staff gets a raise. No, we can't say that.
are they
Well-
are all the executive staff in one big, like, do you all get the same percent, or is it case by case? I guess I don't know how that executive
Yeah.
level works.
Yeah, so for example, this year, there were a couple of executives that probably got a $20,000 or $30,000 raise because they had been so underpaid. And I think it was a gender equity issue where there were some women who were department heads
Oh my
that were
gosh.
not making the same as some male department heads. So that was rectified, but the rest of us did not get a raise. So unfortunately, that's good that because you're an executive, they can make individual decisions. So I think you're in the same situation. Some executives work for the mayor, some work for the assembly, and so I think you want to maintain control over this. One of the things we could put in the code that might help is the election commission is required to meet for an organizational meeting in January of every year. You guys are required to meet like once
Yeah.
every 2 years or something like
Yeah.
that.
That's the required amount. We can read more, but that's the required amount, and sometimes that's all we do.
But sometimes that once every 2 years is an easy one to forget.
Yeah.
So maybe we should think about a code change that says that the commission should meet once a year in on or about X date. You can pick whatever date it is that you want. Obviously, you want to be in a position like this where you're ready for your resolution to get going before the budget is introduced. Maybe it's May, maybe it's April of each year. So, but you can let me know if you want me to propose an amendment to the assembly like that. And then you would meet every year, and then you'd say, oh, I haven't met in May of this year, I know I need to
Right.
do that. And then you would be able to check the salaries every year instead of every other year.
What? Maybe on new business after we get off this, we could talk about that for a
Okay.
second, just to see if we want to do it. What I would be uncomfortable going lower than 1.5%.
Yeah,
And I hear two people kind of sitting on 1.5, maybe one
1.5.
willing to go lower. I don't know, but is there a consensus around 1.5?
I feel like there is.
Okay, that number, and someone should check my math, but that number comes out to 30,748.
Yeah.
What we could do is specify, and that is for 2019. What we could do is specify a number that's 1.5% higher for 2020. It probably helps make the resolution clear what's going on here. It's a 1.5% raise per year. In the, it helps us show how the first was a catch-up. I don't have a strong feeling on that, but it's something that we could do because we still have that second paragraph of section 1 to deal with.
And I think that would be consistent with the way the commission did it before.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So is there a consensus to specify that number for 2019 and then specify a number 1.5% higher for 2020?
So it's very clear.
Clear.
What it,
Yeah, it's spelled out.
Okay. Now on the chair, I bet there's a differential. Do we want to?
Oh, what is this?
This is Elizabeth.
Oh, there she is. Sorry.
That's okay. Hi. Do we want to maintain the same percentage differential between the chair and the assembly? Because if we do, then the math works out pretty easily, because it's 1.5% applied to that.
I think so, yeah. Just
Yes.
But that makes it,
Okay.
Very clear.
Do we want to keep the $250 bi-monthly?
With the cost of healthcare as it is, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
the least we can do.
it's the least we can
Yeah.
At least we can do. Yeah, I mean, we could raise it.
I don't know.
Well, I think that is a huge incentive because they have that toward the cost of acquiring insurance.
Okay.
And a lot of people work in a job these days
Just
just
for
for
the
the
insurance.
insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to apply the exact same logic to the school board?
I
Is
think.
there any reason for anything to be different on that?
Yeah, same climate last time too, right?
Correct.
They're in the same position.
Except that the school board, and this is something I do not understand, why the school board, so the school board members are making, so it appears to me that the school board members, oops, I'm not
It says
positive
X,
if I
yeah.
have that right number. Let me look at, I'm going to go back to the original resolution instead of one of my edited ones.
That's how all my kids are. All three of them, they're with grandma at night.
Okay, so the school board, then their salary is, I show that they're making about 21,476, which is less than the 28 that so they're making about 7,000 less, which I think probably makes sense because we know that their role is slightly different.
Very focused.
Yeah.
And we don't know the numbers, but they most likely don't have as many meetings.
Correct.
And then do they have subcommittees that they also sign up for?
They do,
They
but
do.
they don't have quite as many.
Okay. I mean, that.
So where did the number, the 25,910 that's in section 2?
I think that's just a copy of the assemblies.
Yeah, with
Oh,
the same
okay.
numbers.
Yeah, so the numbers are the assembly numbers. Oh,
I don't know, because
Oh,
the assembly
no.
was 28,121.
no, that one is,
Yeah, but if you look at both section 2s on both resolutions, it's 25. It's the same number.
Yeah, it's the same number.
That's all.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it is just
in this part.
Okay, okay. So we don't know the number, but we
know
could
on the-
instruct the staff to
Yeah.
figure out. Well, let's
The
keep in
fourth
mind.
whereas on our is what they make right now, and she said it was 21,476. At least we know that. As
We
of
do
the-
know that. Okay.
Yeah, she was just reading
Yeah.
from the last raise, so we've got that.
476.
Then does the president of the school board makes more than the regular
Yeah.
members, but we don't know that number?
We do.
Okay.
The president of the school board is, as of 2012, was making $25,310.
Quite a big difference. Just to compare, on the assembly, current members make around 28 and the chair makes 29. So $1,000 difference. And on the school board, it's a $4,000 difference. I don't know why, but it's interesting.
We might want to have those numbers rechecked, just
Well, I
to be
don't know.
sure.
There might actually be a
Yeah,
I don't know.
The,
I think there
the
was.
the chair of the assembly salary is
Okay, so this is
31,713. Yeah.
31. Okay, that's okay. That's better.
Okay, is this for the
Okay.
committee members' enlightenment? I mean, if I did my math right, the 21,476 would go to 23,483 with
Mhm.
6. What was it? 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So in 2019, it'd be one more. Sorry.
So when this is, while you're doing that figuring, I'm going to ask, the school budget is set at a different time.
Oh, that is absolutely correct. School board's budget is July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another good reason to have these separate.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that might be why that July 1st
Mhm.
was in there, because we had them both in the
Mhm.
same thing.
And we had to go with the
Yeah.
earlier budget.
Yeah, so this, for the school board, it would stay the July date would stay the same, I guess, or would it?
Yeah, I think you'd want to leave the July 1st, 2019 date.
Right. But would this incorporate into their, what budget are we at?
So,
Think ahead.
so remember their budget is due to the assembly in March, and then it has to be passed by the end of March. And then it gets redone after the legislative session, and then they have to
Unless
come
the
back.
legislature decides to forward fund, which they did for the first one, they just did.
That's right.
Separately.
So July 2019, that budget, they're right now working the
18-19.
year, okay.
So you could do July 1, 2019.
Okay. Okay.
And then I would suggest we'll do the same with the school board one. We'll run it by the school board. I admit I did the calculation and I multiplied it times 11 to make sure that, I'm not asking for a huge budget increase, and it's, obviously it's, going to be around $30,000, and that's going to be easy to absorb in my budget. That's not going to be a problem. But I think we need to ask the school district that question before we set a public hearing and go forward on that. I think you want to ask
Yeah,
them that
Of course,
question.
yeah, we want to
Okay.
know, because if they don't have the money, then we need to do something different for them.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe the
Okay.
0.5%.
Yeah. Okay. So our draft at this point is the assembly draft as we marked it up.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
It is 6 o'clock if you'd like to either adjourn the meeting or add extra time to it.
What? I think we're within 5 minutes of being
I
done. aren't we?
move that
Okay.
we continue the meeting to 6:15.
Okay.
Second.
Any objection? Okay, we're continuing. So I think we're almost there.
Mhm.
Some So again, I just want to summarize just so people can tell me if I'm wrong. We have the assembly draft resolution marked up. We have the school board resolution marked up where the only change is we're going to stick to the July 1st. We're going to tentatively have numbers which reflect an increase of 1.5% for basically all four categories. The chair
Right.
will go up by 1.5% compounded for 7 years, 2012 to 2019. The regular assembly members, the same thing. The chair of the school board and the regular school board members, all based on what they were receiving since 2012. Okay, is there anything else?
Regarding the resolutions?
Yes.
No?
Receive pay increase. Would it be, I'm just reading the one line that says, received pay in the second whereas, pay increased.
Oh,
Should it be
Yeah.
increased?
increase.
And it's in both resolutions.
Okay,
Just, this is a minor detail.
got it, no problem.
And-
We like that.
Did you see anything else?
School board, they did get the increase in
In July.
2009.
Right, that is correct.
But did the assembly get it
No.
in 2009? Okay, so that's a change.
And the school board had been further behind even than the assembly.
Right.
I
at the
just
time.
want to make sure we did this right.
And, okay.
Fourth whereas, last sentence, it should be spent instead of spend.
But we
That's
say
very small.
in the second whereas on why that they did.
I'll delete that.
Okay. Just want to make sure if I mark through it. I'm
Yep.
doing right.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Good. So what we would do, I'm a little confused on when we notice a public hearing to finalize this. Do we need to meet again after you've checked with the school board? Is that what people are saying? Or do we want to go ahead and plow ahead?
Let me quickly check. Do we have a code in here, Amy?
I don't think we do.
Oh, we do. Oh, okay, good. The commission shall afford an opportunity for the public to be heard before rendering any decision that changes the compensation of elected official. At least every 2 years, but not more frequently than 1 year, the commission shall review. The commission shall render its decisions respect to salaries not 30 days. So it put a whole bunch of stuff in there. So all it is the commission shall afford an opportunity for the public to be heard before rendering any decision that changes the compensation of an elected official. So my understanding of that is I understand what you want to have drafted here. I can draft that. I can email the revised drafts to you. The recommendation is you don't respond to all because that would constitute a serial meeting. You can respond just to me and say, you have a typo. That would be great. And if you would authorize me to make those Scrivener's clerical corrections, we could do that. And then you could have another meeting if you wanted to. For example, if you wanted to say in 1 month on September, whatever, we'll meet from 5 to 5:30, and then the public hearing will start at 5:30 till 6 or 5:30 till 6:30. So you could have a meeting on the front of your meeting to make sure that I got everything correct, if that's what you'd like to do. Or you could just set the public hearing.
You know, I think we could just set the public hearing, because we still have the ability to clean things up before or after the public hearing, as long as it's not something really substantive that the public didn't have an opportunity to weigh in on. But I'm
You are
okay either
correct.
way, so.
That is correct. Your meeting will look, the agenda will look just like this. It's just going to have an opportunity for public hearing.
Yeah.
Right. So the only, what I was trying to clarify was, was there some desire to check with the school district about their budget capabilities before we noticed a public hearing on the raise
that's the
to the
question.
school board members? That was what I was just trying to clarify. And I mean, once
I
again,
would,
we could get the feedback and address it in the public hearing, but it's just, if people want to have another meeting, just after double checking that.
Do you anticipate any comments from them that would impact these resolutions?
I can't speak for the school district at all. Mr. Chair, you could direct me to contact the school board, and if you, or the school district, you could direct me to do that, and if there's no objection, present the resolution as you've proposed. If there
That
is,
sounds good.
okay?
and could you?
Yeah.
I would,
We've been voluntold to do this.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to, can we be notified though what the result of your
Yes.
conversation with the district or board is
Absolutely.
beforehand?
I can notify
Because
you.
that may change our,
Mhm.
Okay. And you can do that whatever way you need to do, so it's not a serial meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
You're just sending in information to all of us.
I will send the information to you. You just can't reply to all. That's the
Yeah.
only instruction.
okay.
But we
Okay.
can reply to you.
You may.
Yes. Okay.
or Amy.
Okay, so I think I'm going to need a motion to calendar a public hearing on the two draft resolutions that I've discussed, and we can set the rules in motion.
I move to calendar our two resolutions as discussed.
A second.
Under discussion, do we need to determine the date now, or
We could probably do that. You could do another poll and do a poll. Would that help? And then you could
Sure.
all
Yeah.
check your
Yes.
that doesn't
calendars.
violate a serial meeting?
It doesn't, because
Okay.
it's procedural and it's
Okay.
not a matter that you're deliberating
Okay.
before you.
Okay, that sounds great. Is there any objection? Let's what the heck, this is so substantive, let's just take a roll call on it.
Mhm.
All right. Steve Rigger,
Yes.
Kimberly Hayes,
Yes?
Patricia Redmond,
Yes.
and Mary Ann Burke.
Yes.
Okay, is there any appetite for discussing whether to schedule these regular meetings, or should we just address that at a later date?
I just want to make sure it doesn't drop off our radar. I do think that it is important that we have a yearly meeting. Even if it's not required, at least we show we are aware and we're meeting to determine if there is anything that needs to be done.
Okay. I wouldn't mind directing staff to just kind of send a little reminder to us next spring, instead of changing the
Maybe-
code,
Maybe we could start in February or March and, start trying to get it scheduled. And I know that I've bugged them before. about halfway. Weren't we supposed to have a meeting? We haven't met in a long time. That was
So the dilemma for
Yes.
us is the election.
Yeah.
And so that's why May is a great time for us. And Amy and I can certainly calendar this for May. It works perfect for us to finish the election in April and May, and then meet with you for an initial meeting, and then We weren't really planning on a special election this summer.
Yeah.
But thank goodness Amy did that, and I would like to say officially thank you very much for extending the meeting. I'm not even back to work full-time yet, so thank you for extending it since I've been gone all summer, so I really appreciate it. But yes, we can just start making May a regular thing.
Okay. Just one thing, I just wanted, this is really just for discussion, but before we adjourn it, you know what? It looks like those numbers that I just did, just hand calculated, went through 18, so 2019, the assembly would be 31,412 if my numbers are right, and the school district would be 23,835. So I think just wanted to correct that. So when you do your math, if it comes out something different, you know, you can let us
Okay,
know. But that's,
got it.
I mean, it might be plus or minus a few.
Okay.
Okay, and then, so we're going to direct staff also to contact the anchor school districts. Is there any other new business? Any other reports, member comments? There's no audience.
We lost our audience.
So, ready to entertain a motion to
I
adjourn?
move we adjourn.
Second.
All opposed? All in favor? How about all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, instead of any opposed.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we're adjourned, thanks.
Thank you.